Okay, so the trade I mentioned to you, or I showed to you, was it 2 days ago? I think it was 2 days ago, on Usdjpy has now closed. It closed yesterday, but I didn't get round to creating the video till today. I'll show you what happened. It was actually an interesting, I actually enjoyed that trade because it did exactly what I was expecting it to do. So I mentioned stop losses, moving stop losses to break even and things like that in my last video. I'll show you what happened. I'll just switch now. So you can see I mentioned to you that I had a few trades on Usdjpy as price was going sometimes in my favor and then sometimes against me, because I expected price to reverse at some point. It was doing exactly what I was expecting, to be honest. So in my last call I mentioned that I had a few trades on. Now these were the trades, and these, as sort of expected, price went down, broke, where is my crosshair, broke this low here as I was expecting it to do. It broke that low, but usually now my take profit was down here where this red line is. I was expecting it to reach there. Sometimes price breaks the low, the previous low, and then goes straight down to hit it, like it did in another trade that I entered yesterday. It did exactly what I was expecting. But in this case, price came down, broke this low, and then started to retrace in these two green bars here, which is fine. It then went back down and broke this low, and then created a long wick here, at which point I started to say to myself, this is not looking very good. I think it's going to do what I'm expecting it to do, which it does sometimes, which is go back and fill this imbalance. Because if you notice what price has been doing, price has been coming down and then going back up to sort of fill the imbalance, and then it goes down again and then goes back up a little. In this case, it didn't actually fill the imbalance, but it filled at least half of it. Now it went down again. Price tends to repeat itself, of course not all the time. It went down again. So when price did this and then started going, so it painted this wick here and then started to go back up to paint this green bar, I moved my take profit all the way down here. I moved my take profit to the top of this swing high here, because what I was expecting at that point was for price to break this swing high and then go back and fill this imbalance. In addition to that, I had a trend line going down. I had a trend line going down that I expected price to bounce off. Okay, so what I did was I put my take profit there so that all these trades closed there for good profit, but I still expected price to reach my take profit here. Okay, so now if price had reached 90% of this take profit, I wouldn't have re-entered this trade like I mentioned last time. Okay, so I waited for price to come back up here to fill this imbalance, and then I entered another sell. After these trades had closed, I entered another sell here. So you can see here, I entered a sell here. Oh, I forgot to mention. Now, I was expecting price to go back up. When price took me out at my take profit here, actually that's not a take profit, that's a stop loss. I moved my stop loss down here so that price took me out at my stop loss for a very good profit here, and then I was expecting price to go back up, hit my trend line while filling this imbalance, so I entered a buy trade. Now my buy trades were not very precise because I entered a couple of times. Now the size, risk wise, remember I said think risk, always think risk. My risk size here was somewhere around 1/40th of my profit, of the profit I made. So it was around 1/40th. So it was really tiny because I wasn't going to risk the profit I just made on another trade. That wasn't going to happen because I've done a lot of that in the past and it never works. So I risked a very small amount here to go back up here. I entered a couple of times though, because first one failed and I think the second one failed. I think it was the third one that worked. I closed that buy trade here, and then when it closed the imbalance and hit the trend line, I entered another sell back downwards here. But even the sell that I entered here was still a small one. It was bigger than the ones I entered here, but much smaller than the ones I entered here. The risk on this trade, on this last sell trade, was one, what was it now? 1/20th. It was 1/20th of the risk, or rather of the profit on this initial trade. Okay, so I took that down here, but I was able to make my stop loss small because if it reached here, if price went up here, I wasn't interested in that trade anymore. So I put my stop loss here and closed my trade here. Price did exactly what I was expecting it to do, because once it got to my take profit there, it started to bounce back up. And now you can see price is coming back down, but that's irrelevant because I'm out of the trade already. But yeah, that's the USDJPY trade that closed yesterday. Now there was another trade I took yesterday. I think that was AUD USD, but it more or less did exactly the same thing. No, it wasn't AUD USD. I actually don't remember now, but it did more or less the same thing. I am waiting for another trade to trigger, and that's on AUD USD. Now I've just looked at my other chart and it looks like it's about to trigger, to be honest. I'll just drag it to the chart now. Okay, so I've been waiting for it to break this low, and I'm going to enter the trade now, but my take profit is going to be here on this second red line here. Entry will be here, take profit will be here. Now of course that's because I'm waiting for it to fill this imbalance here. Now looking at what price has done, I should actually already be in this trade. It's just that I was actually making the video when the setup triggered, which is totally fine because price tends to bounce back when it triggers my setup. Now the thing is, if you look at what we have here, my take profit is here, my entry is here. Now my stop loss is going to be all the way at the top here. Now that's fine by me because I'm not fussy about risk to reward. I am more interested in my win ratio because for most of my strategies, win ratio trumps risk to reward. Okay, so I am very okay taking 0.5 risk to reward. However, I usually try to make it up. So what I do is I enter one leg here usually, so immediately it triggers, I usually enter one leg of the trade, and then I wait for it to hit, if it does, I wait for it to retrace and hit a trend line. I usually try and ensure it's hitting a trend line going down for a sell trade, and it's also hitting a trend line going up. So for a trend line going up, I usually look for something like, where are you now? So I usually look for something like this. Something like this. So you can see where it bounced off, it bounced off, it bounced off, and then both trend lines are converging here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter the trade very soon, a sell trade here, but I'm also going to wait for it to retrace and trigger another trade here. But usually, like I said, think risk. My trade here is usually much smaller than my trade here, so that by the time it reaches my take profit here, if it does reach my take profit, the profit from this trade will be sort of equal to the profit from this trade. Okay, and if it goes against me, then the loss from both of them will be more or less the loss I would normally make on the trade. Okay, again, think risk. Don't think Lamborghini. Don't think mansion. Think, what if it goes against me? Okay, so that's the trade that has just triggered on AUD USD, which I'm going to enter once I'm done with this video. And that's it.